Hello, this is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to talk to you about Holst's Suites for Military Band. I've been waiting to do this one for a while. It's so much fun. I love band music. I'm a sucker for band music, any kind of band music. I mean, my favorite television event is always halftime at Ohio State games because you get to see the world's greatest all brass band, the Ohio State University band, doing Script Ohio, and marching in formation. It's astonishing. It's absolutely astonishing. And I have to sort of take a moment and brag a little bit because the American band tradition is the most astonishingly fabulous in the world. And it's probably the world's best kept musical secret because these major universities and colleges have stupendous band programs. I mean, the Ohio State program is probably the most difficult band to get into. It's harder to get into than the football team that it supports at most games. And, if you go to one of the large state universities and have a look at the musical resources that they bring to bear at these games, and then, of course, all of these bands also present concerts and other musical events, and they are astonishingly talented. And not only that, but there is a huge and virtually unknown repertoire for band. And then bands come in all sizes and shapes. That's one of the problems with getting your head around sort of the band experience. I mean, I've played in university bands when I was in college, and I was in marching bands. I mean, basically all my life I played something in a band. And it's not only fabulous fun and a wonderful sort of community activity, but the music is great, and you don't find it anywhere else, but people tend not to know it. The two Holst suites are, the classics of their genre, but band music can be enormously sophisticated and fully contemporary and very, very interesting. It really can be, and I'm going to have an opportunity to talk to you about some of it. Some of the classical works in the genre, in any case, by people like Holst and Vaughan Williams and Granger, but also Vittorio Giannini and Hovhannes and Morton Gould. And, these are the Hindemith Band Symphony, which I played like 3 billion times. These are wonderful, wonderful pieces, and they're not nearly as well known as they ought to be. But, there are all kinds of bands, and so band music itself has to be somewhat flexible in its scoring. I mean, the Holst suites that we're going to talk about, for example, were written for what he calls military band, which is a mixture of brass and woodwinds and other things. And, without specified numbers of various instruments, because you just don't know how many you're going to get. It depends on the group that is performing it. And so band music is a wonderful nexus of sort of adaptation and transcription as well. I in my video of Respighi's The Pines of Rome, one of the greatest performances of The Pines of Rome is the version played by the U.S. Marine Band. It's incredibly great, and it's a fabulous arrangement as well. But we're going to talk about some original band music in some of these videos, and generally the glory that is the band. Now, the Holst suites, as I said, are written for a mixture of woodwinds and brass, and including things like saxophones and euphoniums and strange families of flutes and contrabass clarinets and woodwind instruments that you don't normally see, all of which can be exchanged freely for instruments at the same pitch level. And so each band recording of this music is in some ways going to be unique because you have to figure out what ensemble you're working with and then adapt the music accordingly. And this is normal. This is not like the authentic instrument movement. There are authentic bands. There are authentic, for example, Sousa bands that recreate the style and the exact composition of the bands that he worked with to the extent that we know it. But by and large, it's okay to mess with band music. So that makes the whole medium slightly more relaxed. Also, while there are band symphonies and quite sophisticated works in larger forms and in modern idioms, band music tends to be more fun, more relaxing, more suite-like than symphony-like, which is also a good thing because it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be able to just enjoy these things, especially if they're designed to be played outdoors, as most band music is. Even in, I played in a concert band at one point when I was in college. And, we were also the band that played at athletic events. So, the lines among the different media, locations, and opportunities for performance are blurred in band music. And I think that is just such a healthy thing. It's a healthy culture, the band culture, all things considered, from a musical point of view. And also, so we could do Wagner excerpts in concert. We could also play, The Ride of the Valkyries or some of the noisier bits, the prelude to Act 3 of Lohengrin, in the stands or marching on the field. And, there's a whole different category of things that happens when the music has to be played on the move, when you're marching in formation, which fortunately I didn't have to do a lot of, especially as a bass drummist at that point. That would have been a bit rough, playing bass drum and cymbals. It's hard. It's work. It's serious, serious work. So let's talk about the Holst suites. There are two of them, and they're basically English folk song type things. I mean, they use that kind of melody. Some of them he actually borrowed. Some of them are original. And they're marvelous. And one of the lovely things about the first suite is that it begins with a chaconne, which is similar to a passacaglia. In other words, it's a series of variations over a bass line. And the bass is this marvelous tune. Bum ba da 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 dum bum bum dum ba da da dum ba. Okay, I got off halfway through it. But one of the lovely things about the first movement is that if you've ever wondered what a passacaglia or a chaconne are, listen to the first movement of Holst's first band suite, because you can always hear the bass line. All that happens in one of these pieces is that the bass line repeats itself over and over and over again while stuff happens on top. That's a passacaglia or a chaconne. The stuff can be strict variations. It can be other things, counter melodies, just counterpoints of various kinds. It doesn't matter. That's what it is. And, we hear, some pieces are spoken of with such, that have such mystique, the Bach Passacaglia for organ in C minor, or the chaconne for solo violin from the D minor violin partita. The Passacaglia finale of Brahms' Fourth Symphony. And in orchestral music, the bass line can often be very hard to hear. And you're not always supposed to hear it. You don't have to hear it all the time. There are moments when, it would become very boring in a large-scale work if you heard the same 8-bar bass line plodding along. Britten and Shostakovich use the form all the time. And so it's nice to get a sense of what it is. And if you want a sense of what it is, listen to the Holst first suite for band. But let's talk about some recordings and see where we are with these pieces. Like I said, each one is a little bit different from all the others because the constituent ensemble is a little bit different. And band music also is a challenge for the engineers, finding the right acoustic, getting the sonics right, and some real showstopper recordings, of course, are of band music because, the brass ensemble and percussion just offer the engineers irresistible opportunities to go for the gusto sonically. So we'll begin in mono. Having said that, this is the classic version of the Holst band suites. It's Frederick Fennell with the Holst suites and Vaughan Williams English folk song suite and the Toccata Marziale and works by Peter Menon, Persichetti, and Reed, who is a great band composer. He wrote a piece here called La Fiesta Mexicana, which is one of the great, all-time great band pieces that everybody has to learn how to play. And it's absolutely fantastic. And I can't remember the composer's first name. Owen, thank you. H. Owen Reed. I remember his first name is H, period. Yeah, Owen Reed. He wrote a lot of really first-class band music. But anyway, this is a mono Mercury Living Presence recording. So the sound is a little bit dated, but it was sort of the piece that told the classical music world that band music was something to be taken seriously. So you just sort of, if you're a band person, you own it already, and you have to have it. Next up, let's look at this Chandos recording. This is with the Eastman Rochester Wind Ensemble, by the way. How could I forget that? The Eastman Wind Ensemble made a whole series of fabulous recordings for Mercury Living Presence, and we'll be talking about several of them, including the classic works for band that were written by serious American composers. And they were a wonderful group. Not the biggest, not always the most intonationally secure, but they were what they were. It was a terrific time, the 50s and 60s, for band music. Here we have the Royal Northern College of Music Wind Orchestra under Timothy Rainish on Chandos. This is Holst and Vaughan Williams, the two Holst suites for military band, then some Holst arrangements, and the usual Vaughan Williams, English folk song suite Toccata Marziale, and a flourish for wind band. There are lots of little occasional fanfare type thingies. A very nice recording. Not sonically the best. I mean, it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not that sort of blockbuster, blow your speakers and your neighbors out, out of the back room there. But it's a very nice disc if you can find it. Next, we get, for some reason, North seems to be in a lot of these ensembles, the North Texas Wind Symphony, under Eugene Miliaro Corporon, the conductor. This is a really, really nice disc of Holst's band suites. It's all Holst. You also get Hammersmith, which is his other major band work, and a Moorside Suite, and a Somerset Rhapsody, and the Marching Song, and Bach's Fugue à la Gigue. It's a transcription, a little piece called In the Bleak Midwinter. This is a beautiful, beautiful disc. The North Texas Wind Symphony is first rate, and Texas actually is the home of several absolutely fabulous wind orchestras. I mean, they're bands, but they call themselves wind orchestras, including the Dallas Wind Symphony, which here does the two suites, a Moorside Suite, and Hammersmith, the Prelude and Scherzo. Now, this is the Dallas Wind Symphony under Howard Dunn. This is on reference recordings, and this is a sonic showstopper. If you ever want to hear, the acme of sonic splendor in band music, these reference recordings, releases with the Dallas Wind Symphony are really, really special. They are absolutely glorious. And this Holst disc is a favorite of mine and has been for many, many years. They've also done Granger, which we're going to talk about in a future video, and they're tremendous. Another disc that sort of set a standard sonically in terms of engineering, technically, for this music was this one on Telarc with good old Freddie Fennell, whatever. Actually, it's Fennell, I think, Frederick Fennell. And the Cleveland Symphonic Winds, which is, the Cleveland Orchestra wind section with friends and other people. This is, you get the two Holst suites, Bach's Fantasia in G minor and Handel's Fireworks music. It is not the most well-filled CD. This was an early Telarc digital back in the days, like when they did that 1812 overture, with the cannons. Remember that disc with the record grooves that went like this? You could see your needle skip around when the cannons went off. Well, this was from that same period. And the sound is astonishing. And the playing is Cleveland. I mean, it's razor sharp. And it's Frederick Fennell getting to remake his classic interpretations of these two works in stereo, which is fabulous. The Song of the Blacksmith, by the way, which is the third movement of the second suite, is rhythmically very tricky. And boy, do these people nail it. I mean, with just insane rhythmic precision. And it has an anvil part. And, I'm sort of an anvil specialist ever since I did, Hecla with the Helsinki Philharmonic on Undine's Earquake album. So, I have an affection for I got to play the anvil solo in the whole second suite too. So it is near and dear to my heart. And the finale is a Fantasia on the Dargeson, You know the tune, that sort of thing. It's one of those folk song thingies. But my favorite version of the Holst Suites is on a wonderful disc. I don't know if you could still find it, but it's probably around somewhere, on CMAX, with the staff band of the Norwegian Armed Forces. And this is played by Eyvind Odland, the wonderful Eyvind Odland, who we've already talked about in connection with Ludwig Jürgens Jensen's music. Well, this is just a great disc. It is sonically astonishing, and this is a wonderful group. I mean, the staff band of the Norwegian Armed Forces, I mean, let's face it, the Norwegian Armed Forces are not exactly doing a lot of fighting, so they have a lot of extra time, and evidently during that time, they've worked themselves up to a fabulous wind ensemble and band. And they play the daylights out of the two Holst suites. But the wonderful thing is that this disc is just a wonderful collection, because in addition to the Holst, you get Granger's Molly on the Shore, the Lincolnshire Posy, which is his great suite of folk tune arrangements for band, and his Irish tune from County Derry and Shepherd's Hay, and also one of the all-time classic pieces of band music, Florent Schmidt's Dionysiac. Dionysiac is an 11-minute phantasmagoria that consists alternately of sexy, languorous, sort of decadent, Salome-like, Florent Schmidt music. If you know his tone poem, The Tragedy of Salome, a lot of that's in here. He reused some of this music in some of his other orchestral pieces. I can talk about those sometime. I will. It's really very funny to hear the same music pop up in these different contexts, like in Antony and Cleopatra, there's Dionysiac in it. And then there is this wild sort of orgiastic bacchanalian crazy music with castanets, of course, because it's sex music, and sex, as I've said in another video, has to have castanets. Classical composers can't do it without castanets. But anyway, Dionysiac is another band classic. Everyone does it. And it's one of those pieces that shows you just how flexible and versatile the band medium is, because it's just the most sensual, wonderful piece. And you can't believe that what's playing is a band. It uses some French instruments that you don't find elsewhere, sarrusophones and things like that. But it's great. And so this disc on CMAX that has the two Holst band suites is my disc of choice in that music, if you can find it. CMAX is sort of hard to get. I know they're available online. You can order directly from them because I've done it, and they tend to be pricey, but their technical quality is second to none. And this is just a great record if you're looking for a single disc, best of the band type collection. So that is my summary of the Holst 2 band suites. I do hope you have them. And if you don't, I hope you get them, because you're really going to enjoy them. And they're such a pleasure and a reason to keep on listening. So thank you. And if you enjoyed this little talk, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. More band music to come, I promise.